The fall into darkness, Cal had been warned not to go near the edge. The sinkholes on planet Voron 9 were unstable, strange, and unpredictable. But he wasn't just any visitor. He was a field scientist, an explorer, and curiosity always won. The morning air was thin and cool. Orange mist floated low across the ground. Strange bird-like creatures chirped in the distance as Cal adjusted his scanner, walking slowly toward the edge of a wide crater. His boots crunched softly on the blackened soil. He tapped his helmet comms. "Base, this is Cal approaching Sinkhole 7C. Readings are spiking. Something's moving down there." No response. He frowned. Signal loss. The atmosphere here was always unreliable. Still, he had a job to do. Cal knelt near the edge and peered down. The sinkhole was deep. Far deeper than the last one he had scanned. There was no bottom in sight, just swirling shadows and faint pulses of blue light like veins glowing in stone. He leaned forward, trying to get a better angle with his scanner. That was his mistake. A low rumble shook the ground. Uh-oh. Cracks spread under his boots. No, no, no. The edge gave way. Cal fell. The wind rushed past his ears. His limbs flailed as he dropped into the darkness. Rocks and debris spun around him. His scanner flew from his hand. His heart pounded. This was it. He was going to die. And then, a roar. Something leaped after him. Claws, arms, a flash of fur and glowing amber eyes. He wasn't falling alone anymore. Cal felt a jolt as strong arms wrapped around him mid-air. The force knocked the wind out of him but slowed his descent. He barely had time to register what was happening. 1 second he was plummeting, and the next he was in someone's grip. The walls of the sinkhole blurred. Blue veins glowed around, them spinning like a tunnel of stars, then impact. The fall ended with a crash. Pain exploded in Cal's body. Everything went black. He woke to a flickering blue light. His head throbbed. His arm was scraped, and his leg ached. But he was alive. Ugh. He groaned and sat up slowly. They were in a cavern. Glowing crystals lit the space in a soft, eerie hue. Alien plants clung to the walls like vines. Water dripped from stone above. And beside him, she knelt, breathing heavily, the alien Beastwoman. Cal stared. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, muscular, yet strangely graceful. Her skin was pale with a slight shimmer. Patches of fur covered her arms and shoulders, and her eyes, those glowing amber eyes, watched him carefully. Her long dark hair was braided down one side and a scar ran along her cheek. Her breathing was slow, strained. Blood, dark and thick, seeped from her side. She had taken the damage from the fall to save him. You jumped?" Cal whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she tilted her head and let out a low sound, a mix between a growl and a sigh. Then she reached toward him and tapped his chest twice. Firm, but not aggressive. Cal's voice trembled. "You knew I was falling?" She didn't speak his language, but something in her eyes said yes. "Why?" he asked. She looked away. Cal glanced up at the cavern ceiling. Way above, the hole they'd fallen through was just a small ring of light. No way back up. Not without help. And they were deep, maybe hundreds of meters below the surface. "We're trapped." He looked at her again. She met his gaze. Her chest rose and fell with effort. The injury was serious, and she had risked everything to save a human stranger. "Thank you," Cal whispered. She didn't reply. Instead, she lay back against the wall, closing her eyes briefly. Her ears twitched at the distant sound of something moving in the dark tunnel beyond the crystals. They weren't alone. Cal's heart started racing again. Whatever else was down here, it had just heard them land. The Beastwoman's embrace, the silence, didn't last long. As Cal tried to stand, his boot slipped slightly on the wet stone floor. Pain flared in his leg, but he forced himself upright, leaning against the wall. He glanced at the alien Beastwoman again. Her eyes were closed, but her ears twitched, alert. From deep within the cave tunnel came a sound, low, guttural, and wrong, like something large dragging itself across stone. "You hear that too?" Cal whispered. Her eyes opened instantly. She stood, her body swayed slightly, wounded, but she growled low in her throat, protective, primal. She sniffed the air. Her nostrils flared, her claws twitched. Cal followed her gaze. From the tunnel's shadows, blue fog began to spill into the cavern. The strange crystals dimmed. Whatever was coming, it brought darkness with it. "We need to move," Cal muttered, half to himself. He looked back up at the shaft they fell from. It was hopeless. The light above was distant like a memory. Climbing up was impossible without gear or help, and even then they'd never make it in time. The creature in the tunnel growled again, louder this time. Cal felt the vibration in his chest. Okay, we go forward," he whispered, turning to the Beastwoman. "Do you understand me?" She didn't speak, but she moved, fast. Grabbing a long shard of broken crystal from the wall, she handed it to Cal. It wasn't a weapon, not really, but it was sharp. Better than nothing. She motioned to follow her. Limping, he obeyed. They hurried through a narrow passage on the far side of the cavern. The sound behind them grew louder, closer. Claws on stone, heavy breathing. And beneath it, a strange clicking noise like bones tapping together. The cave ahead opened into a tunnel webbed with glowing vines and crystal growths. Some vines twitched as they passed. Cal didn't stop to study them. His mind was on survival. The Beastwoman kept checking behind them. She was slowing down. The wound on her side was bleeding more now. Cal could see it soaking through the fur on her hip and waist. They stopped near a crevice in the wall. She pointed at it. A hiding place. She motioned for him to go in first. Cal shook his head. "You're hurt. Go," she growled. Not in anger, but insistence. He didn't argue again. He slipped into the crack between the rocks. She followed, pulling a heavy piece of fallen stone in front of the gap, just enough to hide their presence. Inside, it was tight. Cal's shoulder pressed against hers. Her breathing was labored, and he could smell the metallic scent of blood. She was still alert, though. Her ears twitched at every sound. The creature passed. Its steps were heavy. It sniffed the air. Cal held his breath. The creature stopped outside their hiding spot. For a moment, everything went still. Then, thud. Thud. It rammed the wall near them. Dust shook loose. The Beastwoman put a hand on Cal's mouth gently, warning him to stay silent. Thud, thud again. The stone cracked. It knew. Cal's heart pounded. He could feel it trying to push through the rock. But then the creature suddenly growled, angry, and moved away. Something else had distracted it. Maybe another tunnel. Another scent. They waited in silence for a long time. Finally, the Beastwoman shifted. She pushed the stone aside and crawled out slowly, breathing hard. "That was close," Cal whispered, crawling after her. She turned to him and touched her chest, then his. He understood. She was saying we're still alive. He gave a shaky smile. Barely. They limped deeper into the caves. Eventually they reached a wider chamber. Here, the crystals pulsed with steady light, and a small underground stream ran through the rocks. The Beastwoman dropped to her knees, exhausted. Her wound had worsened. Cal knelt beside her and looked at it. "I have to stop the bleeding," he muttered. "Hold still." She didn't move as he tore part of his sleeve and tied it tightly around her waist. She winced, but didn't cry out. "You saved me. Now I save you," he said softly. She met his gaze again. Her amber eyes seemed softer now, less wild. Cal looked around the chamber. They needed shelter, safety, something permanent. This place wasn't it, and they needed answers. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into a pouch on her side and pulled out something small, metallic, a tag, worn and rusted. Cal leaned closer. It had old human letters on it. Project Chimera 47. Cal's blood ran cold. Chimera? He had read about that, a classified science project. Gene experiments, part human, part alien. Super soldiers, abandoned decades ago after ethical failures. You're from that? Her silence was answer enough. She was part of something forgotten. Left behind. And she still chose to save a human. Cal sat beside her, staring at the tag. Everything had changed. They weren't just trapped underground. They were standing on buried history, and maybe she wasn't just trying to save him. Maybe she was trying to save herself too. In the darkness beyond, the growl echoed again. They weren't safe yet, but Cal knew one thing now. Whatever happened next, he would fight to protect her, just like she had protected him. Trapped together in the sinkhole, the soft drip of water was the only sound for a while. Cal sat beside her, watching the stream flow over the stones. The silence felt like peace, but he knew it was only hiding the danger that stalked them. The Beastwoman, Raelka as he decided to call her, was still weak. Her wound hadn't stopped bleeding even with the makeshift bandage. Her breathing was shallow, but her eyes were open and alert, always scanning the cave around them. Cal whispered, "We need to move again. It'll come back." Raelka slowly nodded. They both stood, Cal supporting her carefully. Even hurt, she still moved with power in her steps. The cave ahead narrowed and strange glowing vines pulsed along the walls. One of them twitched as Cal brushed past it. Raelka growled softly and pulled him back. "What?" She pointed to the vine, then made a snapping motion with her hands. A warning. They weren't vines. They were alive. Cal watched in shock as one of the glowing vines lifted slightly and moved, like a snake sniffing the air. "Biotraps," he muttered. "Defensive organisms. They're everywhere." This place wasn't just dangerous because of the monster. It was alive. Watching them. They had to crawl through tight tunnels to move forward. The crystals grew smaller here, and the light dimmed until they were nearly in the dark. Cal used the soft light from his suit's wristband to guide them. They reached a large cavern with carvings on the wall. Not natural ones. Symbols. Old. Alien. But mixed with human script, Cal's heart skipped a beat. "This isn't just a cave," he whispered. "This was a lab, maybe a base." Raelka walked to the carvings. Her hand hovered over a mark on the wall, a symbol shaped like a triangle with wings. Cal knew that symbol. "Project Chimera," he muttered. She turned and looked at him. "You remember this place?" he asked. She looked away. Her silence said everything. She did. They moved deeper. The air grew colder. Strange bones lay scattered across the floor. Some animal, some clearly not. Long, clawed limbs, twisted skulls, ancient remains of creatures that were never meant to exist. Raelka walked slowly now. Her hand rested on her side. The blood had soaked through the cloth again. Cal stopped. "We can't go further like this," he said. "You need real help." She ignored him and kept walking. He sighed and followed. After another hour of careful movement, they reached something shocking. An ancient doorway. Metallic, human-made, covered in dust and vines. Cal stepped forward and brushed the dirt away. Broken keypad blinked with faded red light. He stared. "Still has power." Raelka walked forward and placed her hand on the panel. The light turned green. The door hissed. "How?" Before Cal could finish, the door slowly opened. Cold, sterile air flowed out. Inside was a long hallway, metal walls covered in grime and decay. Old lights flickered on one by one, casting dim light across the corridor. "This is a facility," he said, "hidden beneath the caves." They entered. Dust floated in the air. Broken screens lined the hallway. Lab tools were scattered across the floor. Dried blood stained the walls. This place had been abandoned in a hurry. Raelka stopped at a door, marked Subject Wing B. She placed her hand on the panel again. It opened. Inside were chambers. Clear tubes. broken tanks, and photos. Cal picked one up. It showed a young woman, dark hair, strong jaw, eyes like fire. He looked at Raelka. It was her, before the fur, before the transformation. "You were human," he whispered. Raelka didn't respond. She just stared at the photo, then crushed it in her claws. A sudden loud screech echoed from the hallway. They turned fast. The monster had followed them. Not just followed, hunted. It had been tracking their scent this whole time. Cal slammed the door shut. It locked, but only for a moment. "We're not safe," he said. "This place is a tomb. We need to get out." Raelka limped to a control panel. She began pressing buttons. Fast. She knew this place. She was trying to find something. A map appeared on a broken screen. "That's it," Cal pointed. "There's an elevator shaft. Maybe it still works." The beast roared again. The door cracked. They ran. Cal supported her. The hallways turned to metal bridges over deep pits. Alarms started blaring from old systems that didn't know whether to help or kill them. "Finally, they reached the elevator shaft. We can climb it," Cal shouted. Raelka looked up. Hundreds of feet. Bare walls. No rope. No ladder. But she still nodded. Then she picked him up. "Wait. No, you're hurt." She growled softly, eyes firm. Her turn to carry him. She began climbing, claw by claw, to escape the darkness. The creatures below, Raelka's claws dug into the metal walls of the shaft. One hand held tight, the other arm wrapped firmly around Cal. Her body shook from the effort, but she climbed without hesitation. Below them, the darkness screamed. The creatures, were no longer hiding. They had followed the scent of blood, of fear, of life. Claws scraped metal. Growls echoed, like thunder. Cal looked down and saw 2 glowing eyes appear, then 4, then 6. "They're multiplying," he breathed. "They're hunting in packs." Raelka growled low in her throat, her breath sharp with pain. Blood dripped from her side and vanished into the shadows below. Every drop called the monsters closer. "You have to stop," Cal whispered. "You can't keep this up." But she didn't stop. She wouldn't stop. Every climb was a choice to protect him. Cal looked up. The shaft was endless. The broken elevator above was jammed halfway, its floor rusted and shaky. "Aim for the platform," he shouted. Raelka nodded once. She pushed harder. Metal cracked as they landed on the side of the old elevator. It groaned under their weight but held. Raelka dropped to one knee, breathing heavily, her claws trembling. Cal reached for a panel on the wall. Maybe he could hotwire it. He was a scientist, not an engineer. But desperation made him bold. He pried the panel open. "Please work." Sparks flew. The elevator lights blinked. It hummed weakly, but it didn't move. Raelka suddenly stood and turned. The creatures were climbing too. Their twisted bodies, long limbs, eyeless faces, black skin like melted rock, moved like insects. Fast, silent, deadly. Raelka stepped in front of Cal again. "No, stop," he said, grabbing her arm. "You can't fight like this, they'll kill you." She didn't move. "Please," he begged. "You saved me once. Now let me save you." She hesitated. Cal turned back to the panel. "I'll hold them off. You focus on this. On surviving." Pause. Then she nodded. They switched places. The creatures leapt. Cal held the crystal shard like a blade. His hands shook. He wasn't a soldier. He'd never fought anything before. But if he didn't stop them, she would die. The first creature landed on the elevator's edge. Cal stabbed wildly. The shard dug into its neck. Black fluid sprayed. It screamed and fell. 2 more climbed up. Raelka joined him, even bleeding. She moved like a storm. Claws slashed, jaws snapped. She tore into the attackers with fury that shook the platform, but one creature slipped past. Cal screamed as it lunged. He raised his arm, but it never reached him. Raelka pounced, tearing it apart midair. They both fell back, gasping. Then, ding. The elevator's emergency controls blinked green. Cal hit the switch. It shuddered, then started rising. The creatures below howled. One jumped, missed, another leapt, caught the bottom edge. Raelka didn't hesitate. She grabbed the last beast with both hands and ripped it from the platform. They watched it fall into the black. Then the door above opened. They had reached the top. The surface air hit Cal like fire and ice. They stumbled out of the shaft into a ruined courtyard covered in moss and strange roots. Broken statues lined the path, half human, half beast. Old forgotten test subjects. This was once the surface level of the facility. Now it was just ruins. Cal dropped to the ground, exhausted. Raelka stood beside him, swaying. He looked up at, "You should rest." She didn't answer. Instead, she turned her head slowly and growled. Cal followed her gaze. A new figure stood among the statues, not a monster. A man. Tall, armored, helmeted. He raised a weapon. "Subject, Chimera 47, the voice said coldly. "You are property of the Coalition. Surrender now." Raelka growled louder. "No," Cal whispered, standing up. "She's not your property." "Step away from the creature," the man ordered. "This is classified." "No," Cal said, firmly. "You don't get to hide this anymore. She saved my life. She's more human than the rest of you." The soldier didn't move, but Cal saw others, more soldiers emerging from the trees. They had been watching, waiting. "She's wounded," Cal said. "She needs help." "She's a rogue weapon," the soldier replied. "Not your concern." Raelka stepped in front of Cal again, ready to fight, ready to die. Cal stepped beside her. "Then you'll have to shoot both of us." For the first time, the soldier hesitated. Behind him, a voice came through his comms. "New orders. Bring them both." Hours later, they were inside a med bay. Raelka lay on a medical bed, unconscious but alive. Her body was healing. Clean. Safe. Cal sat beside her. The soldiers hadn't said much, just that the project had been reopened, that her survival had triggered something. He didn't trust them. But for now, she was alive. And when her eyes finally opened again, weak but shining, she reached out. Cal took her hand. "I'm still here," he said gently. "And I'm not leaving." She blinked slowly, and for the first time, she smiled. A door to the forgotten lab. The smile on Raelka's face faded quickly. Her eyes scanned the sterile white walls of the med bay. The smell of chemicals, the soft beep of machines, the tight wrap of bandages on her body. Her instincts didn't calm, they sharpened. She knew this place, not from memories, from nightmares. Cal noticed the shift. He stood beside her and whispered, "You're safe now. They said you're not in danger anymore." But even as he spoke, he didn't believe it himself. 2 hours later, Cal was called into a metal briefing room, cold chairs, hard faces. 3 officers sat across from him. One was older, with a long scar down his temple. The others wore the same black and gray uniforms with the logo of the Human Coalition, the very force that once abandoned projects, like Chimera. The scarred man leaned forward. "You've bonded with the creature," Cal frowned. "Her name is Raelka. She saved me. Twice." "You're not answering the question." "I am. She's not a creature. She's someone." The man's fingers tapped the table. "Do you know how many men she killed during the project's collapse?" Cal stayed silent. "She was made to be a weapon," the man said coldly, "and now that we've recovered her, we plan to finish what we started." Cal stood. "You can't. She's not a thing you can own." But the guards moved. He was escorted out. Back in the med bay, Raelka had removed the IV from her arm. The machines around her blinked warnings. She was getting up. Cal rushed in just as 2 med drones floated forward to restrain her. "Stop," he shouted. "She's waking up afraid, that's all." But the drones moved fast. Too fast. Raelka roared. Her claws tore through one drone, ripping it from the air. Sparks flew. She jumped from the bed, teeth bared, eyes burning. The second drone buzzed close and fired a shock dart. It hit her shoulder. She growled, but didn't fall. Instead, she ripped the dart out and threw it at the control screen. The room went dark. Then Cal stepped in front of her. "Raelka," he said softly. "It's me." Her breathing slowed, her claws lowered. He stepped closer, gently reaching out. "We have to leave," he said. "They're going to try and use you again." Her eyes met his. There was no fear in them, only trust. They slipped out during a blackout. The facility was massive, built beneath the ruins they'd escaped from earlier. Corridors stretched like veins through the earth. Many were abandoned, covered in vines and dust. Others were guarded. Raelka moved with stealth, even while injured. Cal followed closely, relying on her senses. They passed an old sealed wing. Door, locked, lights dead. She stopped. "This place," Cal whispered. A faded sign above the door read, "Project Core Archive." Restricted. Raelka pressed her claw to the panel. Nothing. Cal tried the override switch. Still nothing. Then he noticed a broken wall panel nearby, half-torn wires exposed. "Give me a second." He knelt and connected 2 wires. Click. The door slid open. Inside was not what they expected. The room looked like a tomb. Glass chambers lined the walls. Each one held a hybrid subject, not moving, preserved. Some looked almost human. Others, more beast than anything. Most were failed. Labels below the tanks read things like Subject 02A, Unstable Subject 09C, Memory Loss Subject 14X, terminated, and in the center of the room was one empty tank. Cal stepped closer. Subject 47, Raelka's tank. She stood before it silently. This was where it all began. "They froze you here," Cal said. "Left you alone." Raelka touched the glass, then her hand curled into a fist and she smashed it. Glass rained to the ground. The echo rang through the chamber like a scream. In the back of the lab, a console blinked on. Cal approached and tapped the keys. A log opened. Audio log 233. Dr. Levon. Subject 47 shows signs of emotional resistance. The beast genome rejected. Full memory suppression. Her reaction to the fall of her unit indicates she is no longer a tool. She is grieving. I fear she has become more than the project intended. Cal read the final line out loud. "We gave her claws to kill, but forgot we gave her a heart to feel." Raelka turned toward him. He looked back. "You were never a monster." Suddenly, alarms blared across the base. Unauthorized access detected. Security. Team dispatched. They were found. Raelka moved first. She grabbed a metal pipe and handed another to Cal. He took it with shaking hands. Soldiers' footsteps echoed outside. "This way," Cal whispered. They dashed through the back corridor, finding a hidden service tunnel behind one of the old cryotanks. Narrow, dark, wet. They moved fast, hearts racing. Cal glanced back once and saw soldiers break into the lab. Too late. He and Raelka were gone. They emerged in an old hangar, a place once used to send experimental teams to the surface, now dusty dead. A single transport shuttle sat in the corner, half covered in vines. "It might still work," Cal said. He ran toward it, Raelka following. Inside, the systems were slow, but alive. Cal typed commands. The engine hummed. Outside, soldiers arrived. They opened fire. Bullets hit the shuttle's side. Cal shouted, "Hang on!" The shuttle lifted, shakily. Raelka stood beside him, claws raised, watching the blast door as it tried to shut. Then, they were out. Into the sky. Into the unknown, but finally, free. Her blood, his voice. The shuttle shook violently as it tore through the upper atmosphere of Voron 9. Cal gripped the side handles, trying to keep the old craft steady. Smoke poured from the rear thrusters, warning lights blinked in red, and every bolt in the floor rattled like it might come loose. Beside him, Raelka stood tall, gripping a support beam. Blood soaked her side again, leaking through torn cloth and matted fur. Still, she didn't show fear. She stared ahead, silent, like a warrior who had seen too many endings. "We can't keep flying like this," Cal said, coughing. "The engine's going to die." He turned the shuttle toward the mountains on the horizon, uncharted and wild. No signals, no cities, just freedom, if they made it. A sudden explosion shook the shuttle from behind. A missile, a tracking missile. Coalition. Forces had locked onto them. Rilke's eyes snapped to the rear camera. 3 pursuit drones. "They're not giving up," Cal whispered. Onboard alarms screamed. "System failure," the AI droned. "Rear shield down. Propulsion damaged." Rilke placed a clawed hand on Cal's shoulder. He looked up. She motioned to the escape pod door. "No," Cal said instantly. "I'm not leaving you." She growled softly, not in anger, in warning. "You think I'd survive without you?" "I'd be dead in a cave right now if it weren't for you," he said. "So no, either we land this thing together or we fall together." Rilke paused, then slowly, she nodded. Side by side, they pushed forward. They skimmed the edge of the mountain range. Missiles closed in. Cal yanked the control lever, sending the shuttle into a spin. Metal tore from the hull. Sparks flew across the console. "Brace!" They crashed through trees. Then, impact metal crumpled. The ground tore open. Fire hissed into the sky. Then silence. Cal awoke to cold rain and broken glass. His leg throbbed. His head spun. He turned. Rilke was unconscious beside him. "No, no, no." He crawled toward her, fingers trembling. Her pulse was slow. Shallow. Too shallow. The wound on her side had reopened fully. Her blood stained the grass. Dark, thick, and unnatural. It glowed slightly under the stormlight. He pressed both hands to it. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Please." Hours passed. They found shelter in a cave in the cliffside. Cal had dragged her there step by painful step. He built a fire, patched her wounds, used every med pack from the shuttle. But it wasn't enough. Rilke needed more than medicine. She needed healing, from the source, from who made her, made. Deep in the cave, Cal found something strange. An old comm station, barely working. Someone had used this cave before. He powered it up. A blinking light said, "Voice command required." He leaned close. "Cal Vinters. Emergency code. Unit Chimera 47. Critical condition. Authorization override. Requesting aid." A pause. Then a voice responded. Female. Soft. Old. Authorization accepted. Subject 47 was my creation. What have you done with her? Saved her, Cal said. And now she's dying. The voice paused. Bring her deeper into the cave, to the sealed core. I will guide you. He carried her in his arms. Her body burned with fever. Her claws twitched weakly. Her breath came in short gasps. He found a door, metal, buried in stone. As he approached, it opened with a hiss. Inside, glowing machines pulsed like a heartbeat. The lab's core. The voice spoke again. Place her on the platform. He obeyed. The light scanned her body. Mechanical arms extended, hovering over her. Her hybrid cells are collapsing, the voice said. She was never meant to bond emotionally, never meant to feel. And yet, she chose you. She's not a weapon anymore, Cal whispered. She's someone. Yes, the voice replied. And now her heart may be the only thing strong enough to reset her system. What do you mean? The voice fell silent. Then, give her your voice. What? Her blood knows yours. She jumped after you into darkness. Now you must pull her from it. Speak. Cal stepped closer, took her hand and spoke. You saved me when you didn't have to. You gave me everything. Your strength, your courage, your pain. Now I'm asking you to come back. Please, not for me. For you. The machines pulsed faster. Her fingers twitched. He leaned closer, tears falling. You are not just a beast. You are not a number. You are not a weapon. You are Rilke. And you are not alone. A long pause. Then, she gasped. Her eyes opened, light glowing brighter than ever. Machines stopped, scans ended. She sat up, slowly. Cal laughed with relief. You're back. She looked at him, touched his chest, then rested her forehead against his. No words, just breath. Connection, outside. The storm ended. Dawn broke over the mountains. They sat beside the fire in silence. Both scarred. Both changed, but alive. Then, Cal spoke softly. They'll come for us again. Raelka didn't move, just stared into the fire. What do we do now? She looked at him, eyes full of fierce light. We fight, she said, her voice raspy but strong, her first real word. Cal smiled. Then we fight together. Light above, loyalty below. The fire crackled in silence as dawn painted the mountains in soft orange and gold. Cal sat close to it, arms wrapped around his knees. He looked at Raelka, now resting, eyes half closed, her breathing finally steady. Her wound had healed faster than expected after the lab's mysterious treatment. She was stronger, but something else had changed. She had spoken. One word. But it meant everything. We fight. Cal couldn't forget it. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was resistance. By mid-morning, the sky above them shimmered with activity. Cal stood near the cliff's edge. Through his cracked binoculars, he saw movement. Black dots in the clouds. Ships, coalition ships, scanning, hunting. They're getting close, he muttered. Raelka joined him, silent and alert. Her fur shimmered in the rising light, a strange mix of beast and beauty. Her golden eyes watched the sky like a predator. Cal glanced at her. We can't run forever. She nodded slowly. Then, to his surprise, she pulled something from her, pouched out a shard of a broken ID card on it. Project Chimera. Field Unit Access key. Cal's eyes widened. Is that a way in? Raelka tapped the metal and pointed east, toward a canyon cloaked in shadow. Deep in that canyon was a forgotten Basie and the final truth. They journeyed for hours, across broken cliffs, overgrown bridges, and under trees so twisted they looked like claws reaching from the earth. Every step forward was a step back into the past Raelka had buried. At last, they reached the canyon. Hidden inside was a steel bunker door half buried by roots. Dead drones lay scattered nearby, rusted over by years of silence. Raelka walked forward and placed the shard into a rusted key slot. The earth trembled. Then, the door opened. Inside was darkness, and waiting. The base still had power. Dim lights blinked, doors opened with groans, and air flowed with a mechanical hum. They entered the command room. Screens flickered to life, displaying files long forgotten, test logs, security footage, genetic charts. And there, centered on one screen, was a message. Project Chimera Phase 2. Reactivated, awaiting primary host. Cal read it out loud. Raelka didn't speak. Her jaw clenched. On a pedestal sat a helmet, sleek, black, and covered in strange circuits. They want you back, Cal whispered. Raelka stepped forward. For a moment, it looked like she might put the helmet on. But then, she crushed it under. Her clawed foot. Crack metal screamed. Wires sparked. On the screen, red letters flashed. Error. Host rejection. Detected contingency. Triggered alarms blared. The base began to shake. Self-destruct in 10 minutes. Raelka turned fast, grabbing Cal's arm. They ran. But behind them a deeper sound rose. Not from the base. From the earth itself. Something else had woken up. As they reached the outer hangar, the floor beneath cracked open. A giant metal form pulled itself up from a hidden chamber, a creature of steel and flesh, built long ago as a failsafe. One final chimera, bigger, stronger, mindless. Its eyes glowed red. Cal stared in horror. They built a monster to destroy their own creation. Raelka stepped forward, claws out. No, Cal said. You're still recovering. She looked back, calm and steady. This was her fight. She turned and roared. The beast roared back. They charged. The clash was thunder. Steel against claw. Fire against fury. Raelka leapt, slashing at its face. It swung a mechanical arm, throwing her into a wall. Cal screamed, "No!" She rose again, limping, bleeding, but still standing. The beast fired a bolt of energy. Cal grabbed a fallen blaster and fired back. It barely scratched the metal hide, but it distracted the monster just long enough. Raelka climbed its back, claws digging in and tore into its spine. It howled. Then, she reached the power core on its neck and crushed it. Boom. A shockwave ripped through the chamber. Cal shielded his eyes. When the dust cleared, Raelka stood atop the fallen monster, chest heaving, covered in smoke and light. A warrior, not a weapon. They fled the base as it exploded behind them. Fire filled the canyon, debris rained down, and when it was over, only silence. No more labs, no more numbers, no more chains. They traveled far from the wreckage, through fields of silver grass, over quiet hills, into lands the coalition never reached. One night by a peaceful lake, Cal asked her, "What now?" Raelka looked at the stars, then at him, and whispered, "Freedom." He smiled. She added, "You gave me a voice." "You gave me everything," Cal replied. They sat together under the stars. Two souls once meant to be lost, now found, in light and loyalty. Forever. The end.